Welcome to Bridged by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders connect with experienced politicians, gaining insights and inspiration for their own political journeys. Today, I'm joined by Helen Davidson, the Mayor of Merri-bek City Council, and I'm just having a brain fart right now. I'm really sorry. What the actual seat of yours? I know you're from Glenroy.
Yes, that's Djirri-Djirri Ward.
Djirri-Djirri Ward. Sorry. There we go. Sorry.
Which is a lovely name because it represents the birds that fly along the Moonee Creek. They're called Djirri-Djirri birds, or we know them as willy wagtails.
Really?
So that's where that name comes from.
That's the Indigenous name?
Yeah, Djirri-Djirri.
Djirri-Djirri.
Which is willy wagtail.
Right. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a good fun fact.
Already learning. That's great. That was not the best description or introduction of you, but how would you best introduce yourself in your own words?
Well, I am a local girl that grew up in Glenroy.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Glenroy my entire life. My mum now, the family home is in Glenroy, and I live around the corner from my mum like a good Italian child should. So I would have purchased a house right next door, but it was a bit out of my price range, so I'm up the street and around the corner.
Okay, still close enough to get
still
like
close enough
weekly
to walk.
Visits and
yeah, definitely, yeah.
You still do like a family dinner thing? Once a week.
Yeah,
or something
definitely. Mum will come over, or I go over there. Her favourite fish and chip shop is on Bell Street, Blue.
Mm-hmm.
They have superb fish and chips. So if any of your listeners need a good fish and chip place, shout out to Blue.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Because you've always been here in this community, how have you seen it change? What's the evolution of that? From when you were a little girl to today, and how much has that grown and changed?
Well, I think one of the biggest, more noticeable changes is the density in population. So Glenroy in particular went through a huge townhouse boom where there was a really big investment by developers into acquiring large blocks of land and subdividing them. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of resistance and pushback against that within the community. Mm. But at the same token, with change comes opportunity, and I wouldn't have been able to afford my own townhouse in Glenroy had it not been for this kind of change and development.
So it sort of comes with benefits and negatives.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we've seen, those large blocks, trees being cut down, the play that you would have in your backyard if you had children or you were a child yourself now has to be in parks. So that's why open space is so important in our municipality, all across our municipality, not just Glenroy, because of the densification that's gone on.
And the shrinking of blocks and backyards disappearing.
Exactly. We've got really good policies around tree planting. Mm-hmm. And we've been huge advocates for when we plan developments, or a developer comes to council with an application, that there has to be a tree in the front yard, that we've got huge visions for canopy along our nature strips to combat the heat island effect. We're flanked by two beautiful creeks. We've got the Moonee Creek and the Merri Creek. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes our borders so special. So they're quite beautiful parklands for people to attend because we know how dense our population is getting.
Yeah, I think I saw something on your Instagram. It was like just recently, a few days ago or something. Yeah. But where was that beforehand? Now it is where it is now. Because it was like a revitalisation of the area.
That's right, revitalisation of the Moonee Creek. Yeah. So Melbourne Water, in conjunction with council and huge advocacy from the Friends of Moonee Creek, have invested in taking out the concrete because it was considered as a drain and just a way to transport wastewater through the city. Mm-hmm. So those concrete slabs that flank the banks of the creek are now being slowly removed. So wildlife is coming back. The creek is flowing more easily. It's cleaning the water before it gets to the ocean. Yeah. All these wonderful things. The city of Moonee Valley and Merri-bek joined together to create a lovely bridge and a walkway that joins both councils together.
In that area where the Instagram...
Yeah, in that exact spot. Yeah. So, and there's lots of things for children to understand the natural habitats. There's some like educational boards and equipment that kids can work with to understand how important this waterway was. And we didn't used to value it, but times are changing and people are really seeing the importance of these natural waterways and our parks.
With the shrinking of, as you were saying before, the small lot sizes, no backyards, actually having contact with nature is a bit more important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and all those mental health benefits that come with it as well. That's huge. That's something that, as science evolves and local governments need to keep up to speed to say we can respond in our own way by incorporating nature into people's daily lives. By one of the other policies that I'm incredibly proud of is our park close to home policy. So that says that within 500 metres of a neighbourhood zone and within 300 metres of an activity centre zone, so a more dense area, there has to be a park that you can access. So one of the more recent examples where we have inserted a park was we actively look for land to purchase. So we purchased land on Sydney Road, like the most dense...
The road,
the most dense concrete part of our city. And we've turned that section into a new park called the Michelle Guglielmo Park. It's across from the Brunswick Town Hall. And we've planted these beautiful trees. They're in their infancy now, but when they grow, they're going to provide beautiful canopy so that people can get a book from the library, cross the road and read the book under these beautiful trees. And it's in honour of a woman called Michelle Guglielmo, who was very instrumental in the Counahan Gallery, which is also across the road. So she has a lovely history of a migrant story where her mum and her father came from Italy. They migrated to Australia, and that's quite symbolic for all the many families that migrated from across the world, sometimes like in the 50s, sometimes very far, war-torn countries, and they've made Merri-bek their home. So it all ties in together.
Similar for you? As your parents were similar to that story?
Yeah, so my mum is a Italian migrant and she came from war-torn Sicily back in the 50s. And as a little girl, she grew up in Richmond, and then she bought her first home in Merri-bek in Glenroy. So that was without my father and without the help of any other man. She was able to purchase her own home. So she has been an incredible inspiration to me growing up. And her involvement in the community, I think, probably is one of the founding factors to why I think I should also give back.
Yeah, before diving into the politics stuff. So, what was life like before? And I guess with your mother's inspiration, how would you describe the path that led you to where you are today? So I think just having that that community foundation where I had a mother that was very actively involved in the community, and she would always one of the probably most profound lessons that she taught me was to help people that might be a little bit more vulnerable than yourself. And I suppose I followed that through my career as a lawyer. I started working at Legal Aid just in Broadmeadows, so down the road, Broadmeadows Legal Aid, and that was a wonderful experience. And then in 2012, I thought, well, what can I do to have a bit more of a larger impact on the community that I love? And the elections were coming up, and I thought, I'm going to give this a shot. I'll put my hand up and I'll see how I go. I don't have a political party, so independent.
Independent. So it was a little bit more, I felt like, of a daunting process. I don't have a background in politics, but I love where I live and I love the community that I live in. And I think that we all have different obligations and responsibilities, and one of them that I felt was that giving back to somewhere that has given so much to me and sort of in line with, my family's values, my mum's values, and how to respect where I live.
And your neighbours and the whole community. And Would you participate alongside your mother growing up in contributing towards the community?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things that my mum was involved in were community groups or even, helping neighbours. So I remember vividly my mum going and doing the shopping for an elderly neighbour that lived down the street, and I called her Auntie Eunice. She had beautiful flowers, hydrangeas in her front garden, which now are my favourite flower. But it's the aspect of giving back and trying to live a life of meaning, I suppose.
Yeah. Which is finding the meaning through helping people
through community. Yeah.
Through anything more you'd want to express on that, or?
I suppose when I
ran, things that led you in.
When I was looking at running for council, I had these notions that it would be like an extension of my work that I had done at Legal Aid. But when I got involved in council and when I was elected, I saw that, yes, there were aspects of that, but then I found this deep love for planning, for urban development, and how formative that can be within a local government. It wasn't an area that I had really realised how fundamentally important it would be to our community, but it's something that has been really enthralling, and seeing our community change and what infrastructure we can put in place and how we can change the dynamic of a street to make it more safe, to make it more inviting, to encourage businesses to come, to encourage economic growth. Those are things that are really important for me. And
so it's those factors that, like, are they the main factors that would draw you towards this obsession, or not obsession, but with like community spaces?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Is that something
and
that's
how formative they are?
Yeah. Name drop your community. Is there like a park or a place that really meant something to you growing up that maybe planted that little seed, and then when you started getting involved with local council, it started to grow, and you're like, oh, actually, I don't know. Is there like a part of the community that really speaks to you that?
Yeah, I suppose so. I think growing up in Glenroy, we're flanked by the Moonee Ponds Creek. So before, that was wild and raw. It didn't have any kind of infrastructure there. There were no dog parks. There was no barbecue area. It was just a trestle bridge with a steep hill that went down to a creek. Yeah. But the creek was beautiful. It was somewhere really special. And I've always had German Shepherds growing up, so I've got all these beautiful memories of taking my dog down there. It was an escape. It was
like another world.
Yeah, like another world that was just at my doorstep as a kid. Yeah. So there weren't like beautiful playgrounds there. It was just the nature of the creek. And I've got memories of like me and my dad crossing the creek with my dog running up the other bank. It was great. Really, really beautiful spot. So then slowly development came, and Gowan Brae started to grow on the other side. And I actually was someone who protested against that. Yeah? Yeah.
While you were young?
When I was very young, yeah. And I remember there was a petition right on Pascoe Road near the TAB, near Post Office Place. And I signed a petition with my dad. I think my dad might have signed it, but I was very involved with, against this, saying that we don't want development near the creek because the creek should be wild and free. But development came, and it has turned out to be an incredibly beautiful suburb, Gowan Brae. Like Adelaide Boulevard is, I think, one of the most beautiful streets we have in Merri-bek. Not many people visit Gowan Brae that often, but that particular area is very beautiful. And the way it faces the creek and its sort of interaction with the greenery and the trees. They've designed it.
Real blend of nature and urban.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, it's on the list. I'll make a note. I have to come. Yeah, all right. Next date night with the missus.
Yeah, nice.
So, touching on that, bit of nature would be many leaders have a defining issue that drives them. What was yours?
I don't think there was one particular defining issue.
Cover them all. We got all day.
Yeah. Well, I think it really came down to loving where I live and wanting to contribute back to the place that had given me so much, from the library to the swimming pool, and realising that at grassroots, that's what council offers. That's what council does best. And it's that grassroots connection with the public and the public's connection with council that's so valuable.
There's nothing individual. It's just because you've grown up here.
I love where I live.
Yeah. sounds like you're perfect. You're in the perfect position, the perfect role.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know, to be the mayor of where you live. Yeah, all right. Well, when you first stepped into the political arena or the local council arena, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
I think the large span of what council is involved in, and being able to have a understanding of each area, from aged care through to roads and footpaths and library services and budgeting. So it's just the span of what council touches in people's everyday lives, and I don't think people realise how significant it is, and how much those services interplay with them each day. Was quite a journey to understand, gosh, there's so much involved here, and you've got to be across all these different topics, and the time involved in reading agendas, attending briefings, liaising with directors, so that you can really make informed and well-balanced decisions.
Trying to wrap your head around everything?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And probably as an independent, you're really focused on your community. You don't have a agenda or a discussion point above that. It's just you and the voices you've heard on your campaign and your own experiences living within your community. There's no sort of brief that you can turn to for quorum or that you caucus with, your political party. You're relying on the people that put you there.
Yeah.
And your own understanding of your environment of where you live.
Okay, a lot more direct with the independent
sort
of thing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. There a challenge with that in itself, or is it you think it's a better thing to be don't answer to anyone other than the members of the community?
Your community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that in itself really stands out for me, and I don't necessarily believe that you need party politics in local government because it is so grassroots.
Yeah. Do you find that to be a challenge sometimes with other councillors or whatever? Or
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Ideologically, I think there's these ideological values that come with having a political party. And they may not necessarily be what the community is arguing or needing.
On that grassroots level.
Yeah, at that grassroots level. So when you're imposing ideological values or systems through to a grassroots level of community where core services matter, roads, infrastructure, all those fundamental things that make up people's everyday lives, it doesn't necessarily translate into tangible outcomes. And experiencing tangible outcomes as a resident and as a ratepayer is incredibly important.
Like a similar, when I spoke to Ella, I don't know if she's a member of the Greens or whatever, but when it sounds like a similar thing where when there's that top down, like she expressed that she finds the importance of local community because you can be on the grassroots level. But then the further away you get from it, from state to federal, the overall vision might not align with what's on the ground with the actual community on a small council level.
Yes.
And it sounds like it could be a similar thing with political parties, pulling yourself further away from it.
Yeah.
With policies.
Yes.
Or political ideologies. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Other than your mum. Other than your mother.
Yeah.
Was there a mentor or a guiding figure who helped you navigate those early stages? If not, you'll go for it. If it's still your mother, if your mother is still the same answer, feel free to express further into that.
On council, I had a wonderful mentor in a former councillor called John Kavanagh.
Yeah.
And John Kavanagh is probably one of the most thoughtful and wise people I know. His insights into community, into life, into democracy are, second to none. And he has been probably really inspirational for me. And choosing the path that I have, I think, as well,
Yeah.
and sticking with it.
Yeah. Was he a fellow independent or?
Yeah, he was a fellow independent. So we were both independents on council, and he was mayor twice. And he finished his tenure on council last term, the term before.
What would be some of the valuable lessons you've learnt through working with him?
I think the resilience that you acquire, you may put forward notices of motion at a council meeting that aren't accepted by your fellow councillors and are outrightly rejected. But you don't take that to heart. You move on and you try to continue to benefit your community and accept that the fact that your other fellow councillors have been elected just as you have, and their voice may have been the majority that overturned your decision. So it's kind of a resilience in and maintaining your integrity throughout the whole process as well.
You don't win everything.
No, you don't win everything, and that's fine.
That's what council's all about.
Yeah, you've got to have a healthy, robust debate, and I'm all for that.
Thank you for sharing about John Kavanagh.
John Kavanagh, who recently got an OAM.
What's that?
Order of Australia.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, really?
So he's contributed so much to his local community. Really inspirational man.
Is that on the cards for you, a goal?
Oh, no.
Okay. Because we've just spoken about some of the challenges, the motion you're putting forward may not always get, picked, or it gets rejected and stuff like that, and you kind of got to take it with the punches.
Yeah.
Looking back at where you are now, do you wish there are some lessons you knew that you've figured out and you've worked out now that you wish you knew at the beginning?
I think when you run for council, you are, in a sense, an advocate. So I think having the courage to run is you do need a bit of courage to run, and also having a voice that may not necessarily be the majority voice as well, that might represent your community and adds to the depth of debate. So really finding your feet and having the self-belief that you have been elected and you have a responsibility to represent and voice your ideas, your concerns, and your vision.
That's something that keeps you going every day?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel a huge responsibility to the people that have put me here. It's not something that you ever take for granted.
Yeah. Because you've been here for a while. I think there's like 9 pictures of you on the wall.
Yeah. I've been here since 2012. So yeah.
So clearly you're doing something right.
I just love where I live.
Yeah. And it reflects. There was an idea of how council ran beforehand, like before you even entered, and then you get in. Was there, I guess, seeing how the sausage is made sort of thing? Yeah. If did any of those realization moments or?
Well, I just think sometimes the wheels of council can turn slowly, but at the same token, they can be highly responsive and driven and targeted, I think.
A lot more direct to certain issues that come up?
Yeah. So say, for example, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah.
I guess I did see one where there was, I think one of the council meetings I went to, a bloke came up to talk about the drainage situation. I think his property backed onto either a water flow a bit, and he wanted council to look more into it, or at least prevent it from flooding so much into his property. And then you guys, at least that's something I've noticed with the council, there's some ideological things that it's yes, no, blah, blah, blah. But the everyday functions that keep the community going, you all are just so unanimous. Yeah. It's just like, yep, we need to investigate why this person's house keeps flooding. Yeah. I guess that's something, I don't know if that answers the question or if that's helping. But you know what I mean? Like it is more direct and it is more responsive.
It is.
You've already touched on that. you're very passionate about, like, you've pretty much answered all the questions. It's really difficult because you're like, my community, I bloody love it. So like any question I have, it's like, I don't care. My community, I represent them. That's what it's about. Sorry. Yeah. No, you're passionate. I like it.
I can tell you, if you like, about something that I'm incredibly proud of that council has done.
Let's do it. Go for it.
Okay.
Let's bring the room back up for my flustering.
No.
I'm just, yeah.
One of the major things that I think council has played a huge role in, and it's recognised across across the state.
Really?
Across the state of Victoria. This is huge.
Okay. So
before my time, we saw that girls were not getting involved in sport. Mm-hmm. This is what we were talking a little bit earlier. Yeah. So girls were not getting involved in organised sport. So soccer, football, those sports that were traditionally perhaps more male focused. There was no avenue, there was no options. There were very little female teams available, and the ones that did have female teams, there was no competitive avenue for them to participate further. Mm. So what council did was they thought, what levers do we have here at council to change the game for little girls or women in general who want to participate in sport? And we have our grounds. We allocate sporting grounds to various clubs. And we said, if you want to have a sporting club participate on this ground, you must have a female team and female members in the committee. Mm. Female president, a female financial officer, a female umpire, and you must have a girls' team.
Yeah.
So there was quite a bit of pushback.
Why?
Well, they thought, what girl is going to be interested in playing footy? How are we going to get girls involved? What mothers and fathers are going to bring their daughters to play football on a Saturday? There's no competitive pathways for them. They're going to be met with dead ends.
Yeah.
But we stood our ground, and soon we saw various clubs around the municipality acquiring girls' teams. We have now one of the most successful female participation in sport, and it has been game-changing across the country because we've adopted policies that implement that within our municipality. So we have the sports ground allocation policy, mm-hmm. which steps out the requirements as to what you must have to actually lease this ground, and the fees that we charge as well.
There's like minimum requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has grown exponentially. And there are so many young girls now involved in sport that was not traditionally available to them. Mm-hmm. And as I said before, like my options growing up were swimming, netball, and ballet. Yeah. And I chose ballet. But if I had the option, I would have picked football.
Yeah.
And I never had that option.
Like footy AFL?
Footy AFL.
Yeah.
Yep. Or soccer.
Yeah.
But probably footy AFL. That was the big thing for me growing up. And, I went to school in Essendon, so everyone followed Essendon that I knew. So
Bombers everywhere.
Yeah, Bombers everywhere.
Yeah.
I would have picked footy, but I never had that option available to me. So
okay.
Now there is.
I think I was saying before, it does make a difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah. Like tearing up, when I go to a Melbourne Victory game and you just watch the girls in the front and they're trying to get the autograph of the female players.
Yeah.
It's just, it's magical, isn't it?
It is. It's incredible because to see, as a young girl, to see an older female in that role is incredibly meaningful, and it might not sink in at that point in time, but as a young person you think, maybe that's something I can do.
Because you can see a mirror almost.
That's right.
Yeah. Someone like you is doing that thing. Yeah. Okay. Is there like what sort of things because that was a big change. Was that happening in your time span?
Yeah, so in 2010, that was just before I got elected, there was this policy that came through, mm-hmm. and then it was really in full swing by 2012, and there was that pushback, the resistance, the questions around it. But we stood fast. Council did not back down. Mm-hmm. And we have thrived because of it, cricket, football and soccer.
And that's something you're still obviously very passionate right up until this day, nearly 10 years?
Yeah, hugely. And those
over 10 years, yeah.
And it goes further than just the organised sport itself. It goes towards bridging a gender equality gap. So there's a huge, groundswell of understanding about genders and roles and respectful relationships. And that's something that, can encompass all areas of life as well.
Yeah.
And breaking down those stereotypes about what girls should be doing and, teaching a little girl, you can play with a truck and you can play with a Barbie, or a little boy to do the same. It doesn't have to be this, huge gender divide that then creates issues later on where respectful relationships are drawn into it.
Yeah, it kind of stunts people in some cases too.
Yeah.
It limits their potential.
Yep.
Yeah.
So unconsciously.
Yeah.
I
know, like growing up, my mum bought me a doll.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
all right,
great.
I'm looking after this baby.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
Yeah. How have you added to that policy? Being, because it was standing your ground. You got it in 2012 and it was in full swing by then, or it was taking action?
It was taking off. They had a period of time to obtain a team and implement positions that were open to females, like coaches, umpires, so forth.
From the get-go, something you participated in? Because I know you've got the portfolio of sport and recreation at the moment. How did you get involved to help implement or help promote this application of the policy? Yeah,
I think at any avenue where there was watered down approaches to it, to stand your ground and to help facilitate clubs that may be struggling to obtain the membership in female participation, and to work with the clubs to bring them along for the journey, and not to water down the policy, but to help facilitate it.
What was your role in it? Did you, go to local schools, try to push it, promote, tell young girls about it, or tell mums about it, or parents about it?
Definitely. It's something that at a lot of events that I've spoken about our sports allocation grounds policy. When I was mayor back in 2016, 2017, it was really high on my agenda to continue to push it, to vote consistently in favour of maintaining the steadfast nature of this policy, not to water it down.
Looking at where you are today, how do you define success in your political career?
I think success comes down to community participation in local government and in the services and the facilities that we provide, from kindergarten through to aged care. And when I think about that span of services, they're so important all the way through life. And one of the things that council has done really well, and that I've been a huge advocate for, is maintaining our aged care services in-house. So a lot of councils said, well, it's quite expensive to run and operate, so they've outsourced their aged care services. Merri-bek and Darebin, and I think one or two other councils across the state, have said, no, we know we provide a good service. We know that our residents rely on us. We will continue to act in this space. And we have had to advocate very strongly to maintain our standing as an aged care provider.
That's council. I guess that's a success on the council front. I guess more you on the personal career councillor front.
I suppose my success would be determined by the engagement that I have with the community, the responsiveness that I can have, and the level of tangible difference that I can make, and the flexibility to adjust and change.
Being flexible and changing for, as an example, for what? For
as our community grows. So
Like demographic changes?
Demographic changes, facilitation of community events. One of the things that in Glenroy that I particularly love is the expansion of the Nepalese community. So across Australia, Glenroy has the highest number of residents from Nepalese background.
Mm-hmm.
And as migrants, they've come here to Glenroy, and now we're seeing their restaurants open, their butchers. Best food, amazing.
Yeah.
Their restaurants open. They've got a billiards or a pool place on Wheatsheaf Road. So it's being responsive to, facilitating their needs, whether it's helping put chairs out the front of their street shop so that they can have a dining experience, or facilitating a community event in Morgan Court in Glenroy. So, to really celebrate and encourage and nurture the economic growth of that particular precinct, noticing that it is changing, and also supporting the current shops that are there. And of course, we've all seen the cost of living crisis rattle through our suburbs and shops closing down or becoming vacant, and looking at the kind of role that council can play in changing that. And that can be done through small things, but they mitigate and help our community. It might be through beautification of our streets, removing graffiti, putting water gardens or tree canopies, making it a place that looks inviting, a place that has good lighting, so you feel safe to walk home from the train station at night. Those kinds of things, working with Victoria Police.
Yeah, just making things feel more welcoming and more inviting and like a warm community.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't have the state power to combat crime. Like, one of the issues I think we've seen is an increase in crime, homelessness as well, and council can't directly change those things, but we can work with the service providers that do, and we can implement our own measures through, improvements and amenities to mitigate against those factors.
You seeing that change that actually welcomes everyone to be a part of the community, that's a success for you.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of last question, I guess, or last area of the interview, where we'll try and get some advice. So for those who want to step into local council, what's some of the first steps they should start to take?
I think it would be engaging with your community, whether that's through a sporting club or a mothers group, or the Friends of Moonee Ponds Creek, or council itself. Attending council meetings, reaching out to councillors, putting forward budget suggestions for the community, budget ideas. There's so many different ways that the community can engage, and their voices are so important, and taking a stand at the next council election is something that is achievable.
Actually engaging with the community.
Definitely.
Hearing what people have to say.
Yeah, and finding an area of interest or a passion, and utilising your voice to advance the needs of that particular group, if they so need.
How can young leaders navigate the system while staying true to their values?
I think surrounding yourself with not just like-minded people, but people that challenge you as well. Okay. Yeah, not just operating within a silo of, say, for example, your own political party, but having an open mind to the challenges of other opinions and other perspectives.
Listen to everyone in your community.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And be prepared to have the ideas you've put your heart into to be challenged, and to open yourself up to the alternative.
Open to change.
Yeah, open to change. Be adaptable.
Yeah. What advice would you give yourself if you went back?
My younger self?
Yeah, time machine.
Yeah.
Go back. Hey, Helen, here's some advice. This is what I've learned.
I think really the biggest piece of advice that I could give is to don't be shy to use your voice and to advocate strongly and passionately. And at the same token, be open to the alternative, like what we were saying before.
Yeah.
I think, use that inner compass of integrity to help make your own decisions and to really put your best foot forward and to present yourself to the community as someone who listens and responds.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely answer. I think that's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Helen, for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
That's it. Cut or whatever they do.